Hi there, I'm Jen Cassetta, your Chief Badassery Officer. If you're feeling drained, hesitant, stuck in self-doubt, or you just have a case of the vlogs, the Art of Badassery podcast is here to help you unleash your mojo once and for all. We'll provide you with tips, techniques, and real-life examples of how you can kick ass in all areas of your life. You'll learn how to flex your mental muscles, rise above fears, and turn setbacks into superpowers. So let's enter the dojo and let's get to work.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Badassery podcast. I'm Jen Cassetta, your Chief Badassery Officer. Today, I want to share just a little snippet of how I coach myself and how you can coach yourself too, especially when life goes sideways. Because let's face it, not everybody has the budget, the time, the resources, etc., to have a coach on call all the time for you to coach you through those rough times. And I strive to live my life with as much positivity as possible. Now, easy to do when life is smooth, when things are going your way. It is not so easy to do, like I said, when life goes sideways, when life throws you curveballs, when you get knocked down. Maybe it's a piece of news that you weren't expecting, or maybe it's a huge life transition. But either way, having a little bit of these tools in your tool belt is going to come in handy for many reasons. To keep yourself positive, but really, the art of badassery, if I really think about it, is really about living powerfully, being a badass, being powerful in the world. So what? So that you can live your best life. So that you can lead the life of your dreams. To me, that's really what being a badass is. It's not just about being tough and being strong and the inner strength. Yes, it's all those things. But in order to actually live the life of your dreams, whatever that looks like. So when things that come into your life that take you off that path for whatever reason, right? We need tools in our tool belt to help us get back on track, keep us looking forward, moving forward, and not get stuck. So I'm going to share a little bit about what I'm going through right now, how I've been coaching myself, and specifically just point out a few of those tools that I use. Because I don't want to be stuck in a rut. I don't want my friends, family, clients to be stuck in ruts, and I certainly don't want you to be stuck in a rut. I want you moving forward. So a couple of episodes ago on my episode with Judy Holler, if you listen to it, you kind of know what's happening a little bit. Essentially, 20 minutes before I started recording that podcast, I got a call from my landlord at the time who told me he was ending our lease. Now, just a little bit of background, you don't need to know all the details, but essentially the background is this. My husband and I have been living in a sweet pad, a amazing, spacious, awesome home in Santa Monica for the last 9 years. We didn't own it. So therefore, I kind of knew this day was coming, right? I don't live in La La Land. I mean, I live in LA, but you get what I mean. I live in reality. I knew this day was coming. I just wasn't prepared for it. And I kind of expected to get a little more notice than the 60 days he wanted to give us, especially after 9 years. So he was well within his rights. And yes, I got upset. And, here I am on the other side. So that's why I'm able to share about it now, because I'm on the other side, still going through the transition, if you will, but able to talk about it in a way where I feel more powerful. So that day, boom, I was handed this piece of news and then I had to deal with it. So obviously time went on and we had to find a new place to live. In the last 9 years, rents have gone crazy in Santa Monica. So what we are able to afford that's on the market now is very different than what we were used to. Let's just put it that way. So there's a lot of emotions. And here's where I really just had to dig into my own framework, The Art of Badassery, right? I feel like sometimes I wrote that book for myself first and foremost, and then obviously to share all the tools that I've used that I learned with the wisdom of the dojo to help me get back up when life knocks you down. So first step is white belt. You getting onto the mat. You're going to be faced with opponents. Life is going to take you out. Yep, that happens. So what is the white belt lesson? Embrace the suck. How do you do that? How do you embrace the suck when you are in the thick of it? First and foremost, you got to feel those feelings. So many of us try to bypass the feelings, the disappointment, the sadness, the anxiety, the fear, all of these negative feelings because they don't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good. So we try to bypass them and just move on and power through. Well, that can work for some of us some of the time, but eventually I do feel like if you suppress those feelings enough, they're gonna come up in unexpected times, in unexpected ways, and probably not in healthy ways. Or, like I talk about in the book, and obviously we all know this, we try to bury those feelings with things like wine or shopping or burying yourself at work, scrolling on social media, doom scrolling, Netflix binging, all these different things to not feel the feelings. Well, I do feel like in order to process them, in order to move through them, that we do have to feel them. So that's step one. Feel them. Allow yourself that space. And I really started to ask myself, what are the feelings that I'm feeling, right? I started to cry, I was mad, I was sad. And really, those feelings hit me, especially during the week of the move. So it really took 7 full days, truth be told, to get out of that house, to empty the house. I started purging early on. I got rid of tons of clothing, belonging, furniture. But when it really started to hit me was when that space that I called home for 9 years started to empty out. And as we got closer and closer, I started to feel lots of loss. It was loss. I started to feel grief. So I allowed myself to start feeling that grief because I was losing something, even though there was a part of me that said, girl, you don't deserve to grieve this, okay? It's just a home. It's no big deal. Nothing is permanent in life anyway. It's not like when you lost your dad or, something really, really, really important. But look, at the end of the day, loss is loss and grief is grief. So I allowed myself to mourn and feel those feelings. Ooh, boy. And I cried and I cried and I let it go. I cried in front of friends. Friends held me. I literally had a friend hold me like on her chest as I cried and wept. I allowed people to step in and fill those spaces and support me. Literally, I didn't even ask, and friends showed up in my life to pack boxes, unpack, clean, be there the day of the move, days after the move, days before the move. It was amazing what really I believe I allowed to happen because I allowed to feel those feelings and share that with folks. So after white belt level is yellow belt, which is about bouncing back. And part of the things that I write about in the yellow belt chapter is leaning on your community for support. So again, I'm so blessed and lucky that I didn't even have to ask them. They just showed up. Whew. So that was really amazing. But getting back to those feelings and allowing, I also started to ask, what are the feelings? So I got to loss, grief, etc. But there was something else. There was something else that I knew was there. And if I just dug a little deeper, I would find more answers. And sure enough, there it was. Shame. I really started to feel shame around this whole losing my house, losing my home. So I dug deeper, and it was like, oh, I'm embarrassed. I'm shameful that I don't own my own home at this age, at this stage in my career, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So starting to unpack that a bit was really helpful as well. Because then the next thing I start to ask, again, for myself or even for when I'm coaching my clients is it true? Right? Just take that sentence. Is it true? So when I start to be shameful, I'm like, what am I shameful about? And that's where all those things, those lies start to surface. Oh, that I'm a failure, right? I'm not as successful as I should be. I don't own a home and I should. Should. And I start shitting all over myself. So are these things true? And I start to just separate them one by one and allow them to surface. Like, am I a failure? Is that true? No, that's not true. And I start to talk to myself and say, these are all the reasons why that's not true. And I start to point to my successes and the epic things that I've achieved. I also start to look at what I've prioritized over the last decade or two. I've really prioritized growing my career, investing in my self-development, investing in myself and my business. That's really what I was focused on. So part of that is debunking the failure part, but it's also one other step that I like to coach myself and other people through, which is there anything that I can just take responsibility for? And again, that's very different than blame. Sure, I can blame myself, but that only leads to more shame. So instead, what can I take responsibility for? And that's what I just said. I can take responsibility for what I've actually prioritized in my life, which are other things than buying a home. Okay, got it. When life knocks you down, sometimes there's a lesson there, or sometimes there's an opportunity to reprioritize, to make new goals for yourself, to set new expectations, etc. So maybe in this next decade, hopefully, I will really prioritize getting my own home, right? So this can't happen again. So that's just another thing. So is it true? And if they're not true, right, make sure that you have enough reasons and backup to debunk those myths that you're telling yourself, those lies that you're telling yourself, because usually shame and blame come from these lies, these negative things that we're telling ourselves over and over again. Another thing about feeling the feelings, just one more sidebar on that, and this is in chapter 1 of Embrace the Suck, is look, I think it's important to feel the feelings, and I think it's important to have a timeline for them. Because, like I said in the beginning, what I don't want for anyone that I care about, including you, is to get stuck. And when we stay in these modes of sadness, depression, anxiety, etc., worry, fear, it's really like if we don't move through them, right? If we don't process them and actually move through them, then we're getting stuck in them. And that's when I talk about kind of getting stuck in that victim mentality, right? Life is happening to me and this isn't fair, etc., etc., etc. Look, we've all been there and we can say those things, but then we can move through them. So that's what I'm trying to do here is give you a deadline. And everyone's deadline, depending on the circumstance, can be very different. The power in it is choosing what it's going to be for you. Now, I know that I let myself feel those feelings, like really feel them for 7 days. Did I know on day 1 that I was giving myself 7 days? No. But I got to a point where I said, enough. Enough already, because by day 7, I was in the new place and I decided that I did not want to bring those feelings into my new space. I didn't want to give them more life. I didn't want to fill up my new space with those negative feelings. So that for me was the turning point. And I said, all right, no more. From now on, I'm going to focus on generating positive feelings, feelings of hope, feelings of, what can be in the future. And that's where this kind of third tool that I love to play with really comes in handy, which is just trying to imagine that there are infinite possibilities in the universe in every different scenario that's playing out right now. So for me, in this scenario of moving to a place that was different than what I was used to, that on paper is not as great, to be honest, right? It's definitely not better than what I had. I had to realize that there's got to be a reason for it. And the reason can be better than I could have ever imagined. So instead of staying stuck and focused on the fact that this is a bummer, this is a downgrade, et cetera, I'm now going to focus on there are infinite possibilities. What if this works out in my favor? That is one of my favorite mantras. That's one of my favorite questions to ask myself is what if this works out in my favor? Approaching each challenge that you're going through with curiosity and questioning like that brings a whole new vibration. And that's really at the end of the day what I'm trying to do. Keep my vibration high, keep it as high as possible so I can create the life of my dreams. And really, that's pretty much what I'm going to leave you with today is the question of what if this all works out in your favor? What could be possible? There are infinite possibilities on how it could play out for you. And just some quick examples of what I've been thinking about is right, me just being in a new space at a new address, same neighborhood, actually. I was able to stay in my same neighborhood, but maybe it'll get me out. Maybe I'll meet new neighbors that will change my life. Maybe it'll get me out into the coffee shops more. And again, I'll run into someone or, create some amazing opportunity for my business, my life, my family, my relationships. Who knows? Because what if this works out in my favor? That's all for now, folks. I hope whatever it is that you're going through, you find the inner strength to stay open, to stay curious, and at the end of the day, to stay as positive as possible. But first, feel those feelings, identify what they are. If you find yourself blaming or shaming, ask yourself, is it true? Is it true? And if it's not, what is true? And last but not least, think about the infinite possibilities that are out there in the universe. And again, what if this works out in your favor? Okay, I hope you enjoyed that quick tidbit. I will keep you posted on how this all unfolds. I think it's important to share not just the highs of my life, but also some of the lows, some of the challenges, because if we are to just look at Instagram and look at social media these days, and compare ourselves to everybody's highlight reels, it could be a downer. And I know that is happening for especially young women and teenagers around the world right now as they compare their lives to everybody's highlight reels. So that is why I share. That is why I am vulnerable. And I will continue to do so if it serves a greater purpose. So with that said, I'd love to know if it does. Let me know. Jump on social media. If you see these reels on my Instagram or LinkedIn, comment. Let me know if this advice is applying to your life or how you apply this to your life and how it's working out for you. I want to know. All right, everyone, have an awesome day, and I'll see you on the next episode of The Art of Badassery. Thanks.